live on the Hangout Show.
Nice. Oh, hi everybody, I'm Heather Henderson and welcome to the Religious Discussion Hangout on the Hangout Show. Please do us a favor and circle the Hangout Show so you can be part of all of these cool hangouts, religious discussion, trivia, and things of that nature. I'm the host of a weekly podcast, Ardent Atheist, and I'm here to keep an ongoing discussion about religion, an ongoing open discussion about religion. This is not a debate. This is not a lecture. This is where we can all share what we believe and why, and maybe even learn something new. This discussion will last for 1 hour, and the topic today that I'll be opening up with is the ridiculous amount of child molestation accounts by priests and pastors in the news. Something that we're all a fan of, right? I'm sure you all have heard about the Catholic priests that have been accused of abuse, and possibly have even heard about the Pope and the cover-up of these priests. They've been moving the priests around from place to place after the abuse happens and not punishing them at all. So now people are starting to come out and air their opinion on this and come out and join in solidarity against these child abuse cases. The victims of sexual abuse, some of the victims have been sharing their stories online, and I will be placing links in the chat room to things I am referencing, about things I'm referencing. So, what do you guys think about the Pope? You like him? Dislike him? Worship him?
Don't like
I
him.
think he looks like Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars. I'll say that much, at least. As to whether I like him or dislike him, I can't say that I've read enough about any of his policies, aside from this scandal here, which really wasn't limited to just him. It was the other popes as well, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really say as to whether I really truly like him or not, because I haven't really looked into any of his other policies.
Well, did you know that in the news here, this is March 25, 2010, says senior Vatican officials, including the current Pope, refused to punish a priest who sexually assaulted as many as 200 deaf boys over the course of 3 decades, despite calls for disciplinary measures from 2 American bishops. Yay, America. Documents from a lawsuit brought by the priests, now adult victims, against the Milwaukee Diocese, and initially obtained by the New York Times, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but in the 1990s, Reverend Lawrence Murphy admitted to molesting dozens of boys while working at St. John's School for the Deaf in St. Francis, Wisconsin, for 25 years, from 1950 to 1975. Yikesers! I mean, these poor kids, you know, who's speaking up for these kids?
My question is, why wasn't something done sooner?
Mike, that's my question as well. There's a lot of people's questions, and there's actually a website dedicated to disclosing all of these priests that have been doing all this molestation. It's not just children, it's women too. Mm-hmm. You would think that they would make up their minds. Stick to boys or stick to girls. But no, but there's abuse towards women as well. I'm looking up.
Where it ends up for me is when I meet people that are Catholic, and you ask them about some of the sillier parts of the belief system that the Catholics at least publicly talk about, you know, the transubstantiation, all that stuff, and they don't buy it. And then you talk to them about this stuff, and they hate it. And so what I keep coming back to is, then how are you still putting money in the collection basket every week when you know that some fraction of some penny out of that dollar that you put in that wicker basket is paying for part of a plane ticket for a priest to get from one parish full of kids he molested to another parish full of kids he's about to molest? You know?
Right.
Peer pressure and conformity.
Now, there's a couple of blogs, Abuse Tracker which lists, I'm looking it up, my computer is slow, but it lists as many priests as they know that have been abusing kids. Okay, why is this in another language? Okay.
I mean, as far as people continuing to add, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying, I meant that as far as people adding, or continuing to add money to the collection plate when they know that things like this are happening. It's more of a sense of, at least to me, it seems it's more of a sense of peer pressure within that particular moment when they're passing the plate around in the church and everybody else in the church is watching you. And if you don't, if you don't put that money in the plate, you're seen as a bad person.
I don't think it's that. I think they're putting money on the plate for other things. They don't think they're supporting priests. They're putting it in to keep the churches going and that type of thing. I don't think that probably even enters their head when they're putting that money in, to be fair.
Have you ever seen Sell the Vatican, Feed the World? It's a YouTube video by Sarah Silverman, and she basically says, you could feed the entire world if you would just sell the Vatican. And I'll post that link in here. We should watch it, as a matter of fact. The Pope is rich, dude. He's walking around with golden crosses. He's living in a palace, which is a city. Like, he could afford to feed some starving people, and yet outside of the Vatican, there are starving people right outside the walls praying to this God for help. And, if God was so protective of everyone and loved everyone, why is the Pope riding around in the Pope-mobile, which is a bulletproof vehicle class?
Yeah, he's got a lot of faith, doesn't he?
He's got a lot of faith. So
well,
let's watch
that gets into issues of free will as well.
Oh yeah, free will. I guess the God doesn't have free will to kill his ass.
Yeah, since he's omnipotent and omnipresent and transcendent and a part of time and yet not a part of time, and he can't control any of that, I guess. So we're stronger. That would mean that we're stronger than God, because if we had free will, then we could go against his will.
No, that just means he doesn't give a shit. Or excuse me, sorry. Tried not to swear here.
No curse words, even though I already did it.
Well, it's either you have a God that's the most evil entity ever, or you have a weak God that can't do anything. One way or the other. You can't have them both. But anyway, I don't believe in him anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I just posted a picture. I just posted a picture of the Pope-mobile. There he is. He's riding in all his glory, waving out the bulletproof glass windows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not sure how he still professes faith and rides around in that thing.
Well, that's, well, look at Mother Teresa, whose memoirs were published against her wishes, that stated that she wasn't sure if she believed anymore. And this was after she died. It was posted. So, she didn't even believe that God was helping. She felt that she was doing God's work. She seemed to be more attracted to the money and the popularity than actually helping people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you know about Calcutta.
I think she, again with her as well, it wasn't so much she, she did took a lot of handouts and that type of thing, but I think she genuinely thought that what she was doing was God's work, the suffering and that type of thing. So it's not a matter of, she actually thought they were she was doing them a favour by making them go through what Jesus was going through. The problem there isn't, the problem there is the fact that she thought that were right because her religion told her so.
Well, Calcutta was like a house of horror. Really, they basically, for people who don't know, this was the place, her home for the dying. So people would come to her to die and be blessed, and they would only be given a cot to lay on, and no medicines, and they weren't allowed to leave to go to the hospital down the street. Things that could have been cured simply by medicine she would not let them leave. And a
Yeah.
doctor would come about once a month and do a general assessment of the whole place and then give out vitamins. And I want to just thank Hemley Gonzalez, who's the man who started this war against Mother Teresa. He has StopTheMissionariesOfCharity.com, and they do a lot of work to bring out really the truth about what's going on in there. The pictures are horrendous and horrific. It's really hard to believe that that it's actually happening. And she thought this was what God wanted.
Yeah, she thought exactly, and that's what I was going to get to. She thought she would justify it all by saying, it's good that you suffer. It's a blessing. Suffering is a blessing from God, and just like you said, people would have, the medicines and the food and the different things they would need. They could get access to it, but yet she was almost opposed to it at certain points. And because of this suffering thing that she claimed would, be good for them spiritually. So it's just another stronghold that the church has. And going back to why so many people in the church, in the Roman Catholic Church, would turn a blind eye to abuses of pedophile priests and have you, it goes right back to that stronghold that the church has on people. And how they can justify something or get people to not even believe it's happening. I mean, it happens all the time in all churches, not just the Roman Catholic Church. But,
If you're not friends on Facebook or Google Plus with Hemley Gonzalez, you should be. He's got hundreds of photos of inside Calcutta. They did things like wash needles under tap water, and when they did the laundry, they would just dry it on the tops of the roofs. So if you fly over top, you just see big sheets of fabric drying on the rooftops, and it's filthy. You know what I mean? It's not sanitary at all.
I have a problem here, and I'm not Catholic. And I'm not even a believer. But what I'm hearing here is I'm hearing one side of this story, and it's too bad there isn't a nice devout Catholic in here to refute it.
Well, what are you hearing that's one-sided?
The sad thing is that the devout Catholic would probably be saying the same things we're saying if they're not the priest.
No, the devout Catholic, having that background, I could say the devout Catholics, they sainted her. She's been canonized. She's
a saint now.
Yeah, she's a saint. She fed the hungry and healed the sick and ministered, and basically these are all haters. These are all people who oppose her for whatever reason that are spreading lies about her. That's probably what the Catholic, who is the true believer, would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly what we said early on about the bad egg priests. Like when this stuff was starting in the late 80s and early 90s. I still had a lot of Catholic friends, and it was all these are lies, or there's child molesters in every religion, or
They would chain children with disabilities with a chain around their foot so that they couldn't move, so that they wouldn't get away. They used to do electroshock therapy there. It was barbaric, and these people were left to suffer in their illnesses and die.
And in some cases, people were given better care depending on whether or not they would renounce their homosexuality, or denounce, I should say, their homosexuality and embrace Jesus.
There was a real hospital down the road they couldn't go to. So that's Mother Teresa in a nutshell.
Wayne, type rape.
Typing is very loud.
Loud typing.
But I'm sorry. Roberta, tell us why you feel like it's a one-sided story.
Well, the thing is that I can't agree with you or disagree with you because I haven't read the material yet. I wouldn't be surprised if what you're saying is absolutely true. But however, I always like to hear somebody else giving the opposing view. And I'm not hearing that in this group. I think that in this group, and most, if not all of us, are of the same mind that we don't like the abuses that fall under the umbrella of religion. And it's disturbing to me, and I'm sure it's disturbing to other people here. But I would sure like to hear from somebody else. I mean, it's like talking to yourself, right? It's not.
Well, I mean, the thing is that many of these priests have been brought forward, but I mean, the thing is, what's being done about it? I mean, and there's been cover-ups already, or there's been slap on the wrist with these priests. I mean, we've seen that now. That's proven. That's fact.
But it's not,
that's stuff that's happened in the past.
Well, the thing is
no.
I'm not. You have to realize I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. You know,
right. I'm just bringing out
I'm informed. I'm just saying we're hearing one side of this story from, and we're just hearing. It's like all of us are in pretty much in agreement on these issues. I mean, I don't know what everybody's inner thoughts are, but I think we're all pretty much in agreement on the inner issues, but on these issues. But I would love to hear somebody who says, "Wait a minute, we're not like that."
Wait a minute.
You're right what you say. You're right what you said. That you need to. You're never going to learn anything if you just get a blinker view and just one track. By the way, you need to hear conflicting opinions. But the point with this is we know the conflicting opinion anyway, because that's what everybody thinks. Everybody knows Mother Teresa is this glorious thing. I mean, that's what it's known as. This is the other side. So in this case, we know the other side. If that makes sense.
Right.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I know, but we don't have anybody here to sway. Everybody's already swayed, or would you say sworn? I'm not sure.
I wonder if there's been any studies in the countries where you live that compare sexual abuse in the Catholic Church to sexual abuse outside the Catholic Church.
I was thinking just the same thing, because this kind of abuse, sexual or even medical abuse like that, is not just limited to the Catholic Church or the Catholic religion.
Of course,
it's not just limited to Christian religion.
That's not the point we're making either.
Yeah,
that's not the whole point we're making.
And it's not about how much there is, or that it's this huge, rampant issue in the Catholic Church. The problem is how they deal with it.
How it's being handled.
What they choose to do is, when allegations are made, they move the priest and cover it up instead of throwing the priest to the wolves and going, hey, get him away from our kids, which is what they should be doing.
Let me speak about the Dutch situation and partially the Belgian situation and what I've learned from my colleges about it. But what I learned about that is that the Episcopal archives of personal nature are by definition destroyed after 10 years, which is simply a rule in the Catholic Church. If some priest has a personal record somewhere, 10 years after the record is made, it will be destroyed, period. And that is a major reason why it's so difficult to find something. But it would be the same if the said priest would have stolen something or said a nasty word. After 10 years, this file will be destroyed, period. Whatever is in it.
Yeah, a point I'd like to make here, and it's something I thought of long before it came out about this degree of sexual abuse by Catholic priests. And I had the thought, I said, the Catholic Church and monasteries and priesthoods are too much like a boys' club. And a boys' club that's perhaps set up that favors people who have homosexual tendencies, but homosexuality is not the same as pedophilia. But also it becomes a refuge for pedophiles as well as homosexuals, two different groups. And I had this thought, a long time ago, and so that it's an institution that by its nature allows for this type of thing to happen. No comment?
I think a lot of people don't even know about it, and that's a big issue.
I can elaborate on the nature, I think. Because what you're doing is most of the abuse happened in foster home or in I'm not sure what the name is, in homes where a lot of boys were living together. Orphanages, thank you. Yeah. And so you have, 50 or 100 boys of 14, 16-year-old with their testosterone going through the roof. And then you put a couple of men there, which are bound by English.
Vows of chastity.
Yeah, thank you. And that is, as we call it in Holland, binding the cat to the bacon.
Yeah. Abstinence makes the church grow fondlers.
Don't you think that it would be admirable if the church allowed these priests to get married to women?
We actually
there is no biblical base for abstinence.
So we just covered a story.
Those priests who go into the church and who are pedophiles, and it's an avenue for them, aren't interested in getting married to women.
Right.
It's the same thing. Men who are pedophiles, or women, I suppose, but I think a smaller percentage, but men who are pedophiles seek out employment that allows them to be close to children.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be a priest. It could be a man who peddles ice cream in an ice cream truck.
Mm-hmm. Yes and no. Mm-hmm. Actually.
Thank you. A disagreement. I want to hear it.
Because not all people who are pedophiles go out and actively seek an occupation that allows them to be closer to children. Some take advantage of a circumstance that they may find themselves in, but not that they actively seek to continue to be in that sort of situation.
I think we need to distinguish between three different terms here. You have pedophilia, which is the love of children. You have pedosexuality, which is the urge of having sex with children. And there's hypersexual pedosexuality, which is our Dutch Robert M., who's been convicted of abuse of, I believe, 78 children, and the youngest being 3 weeks old. Yeah, it is actually it's extremely horrible. But there's an entire range, and pedophilia is something you can't really help. But what you can help is how you deal with it, and that's the difference between pedophilia and pedosexuality. And pedosexuality should be punished, but pedophilia you can't help. It's the same as punishing gays for being gay.
One more thing about
we're giving them lifetime monitoring here, so.
Yeah. One more thing about
we can help that.
The missionaries of charity. I posted also in the chat. I'll read it though. Hemley says, not once in its 60-year history have the missionaries of charity reported the total amount of funds they've collected in donations, what percentage they've used for administration, and where the rest has been applied and how. Since its inception, defectors of the organization and other journalists have placed the figure upwards of $1 billion and counting. The mission currently operates over 700 homes and maintains an average of 4,000 workers while consistently failing to provide statistics on their efficacy of their work. And Mother Teresa was a rich lady. I mean, she wasn't living in poverty. She went to the doctor. She died in a hospital. You know, where is this money going? Where is it? That's all I got to say about that.
I have a bit difficulty, but maybe it's my lack of knowledge, to combine the topic of Mother Teresa and child abuse in the Catholic Church. Where do they
Well,
meet?
It's two different topics, but it's something that it's not that they meet. It's just a part of the craziness and the I would say sin that's going on within the church. And a lot of people don't know about it. And I happen to bring up Mother Teresa because really a lot of people don't know about that. Hopefully people will look into it. But yes, and not just Catholic priests, but priests all over the world of all different kinds, Christian and I'm sure even, I'm sorry, I'm looking up the rate of child molestation. So I'm sure it's not just Christians and Catholics. There's got to be, it's anywhere where you don't allow a man to, marry a woman or have a relationship and have sex. There's going to be probably some abuse going on.
Well, speaking of stuff that a lot of people aren't aware of, we can touch on this one later, but go ahead, Glenn.
Well, this might be a discussion killer, but I've seen a research which compares the level of religiousness with the level of negative behavior, such as stealing, substance abuse, and so forth. The correlation was... I'm really tired, so I have trouble with my English. The correlation was minimal, but significant. In a positive way, so which means that there's a very small increase or decrease in negative behavior and substance abuse if you are religious, which means exactly that you don't really change by becoming religious. So if you're an asshole and you become religious, then you're a religious asshole, which may be even worse than a non-religious asshole because you have something to base it on.
Well, it's better to be a religious asshole because then you're going to be forgiven by God if you just repent.
Well, it's like that old saying that,
Not that simple.
That's not as simple as, no.
But it reminds me of the old saying that, you're pretty much always going to have bad people doing bad things, and you're always going to have good people doing good things. But if you want good people to do bad stuff, you really need religion.
Yeah.
That's a bad saying. I disagree completely and fervently with that.
So why do you disagree?
Yeah, how else do people justify very evil acts and call them good?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what Gowan has to say, why he disagrees.
Yep.
I'm going to think of arguments. I just disagree for now, but I'll be back on this, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Gowan.
No. Call someone to...
Sorry?
I just feel that, religion allows you...
normally.
Religion allows you to do bad things because all you need to do is pray to God and repent. I was just watching a thing on television. They show people in prison. They talk about the different stories about men in prison and women in prison. And this one guy was arrested at the age of, I think, 21 for raping a girl, going to a shopping mall, kidnapping a girl, raping her, and then trying to do it again, and he got caught the second time. And he was in there for a really long time, like 20 years. And he's sitting there, and I believe this is due to lack of education, but he's now an adult, and he's reading the Bible fervently and looking for good scripture and he said basically the Bible says my past is forgiven. The God forgives me for everything I've done in the past, and now my life starts now. So he's still in jail paying for his time, but he feels that God has forgiven him and he's going to heaven.
Well, Jeffrey Dahmer did
that's too anecdotal for me as in terms of that's like one crazy guy.
But it's not one crazy guy. This is how a lot of people feel.
I think I'm there. I can go so far in agreement with Matthew as saying that if you want to justify evil acts, you can use religion. Mm-hmm. But I think you kind of miss the point of religion if you do that. And at the other hand, if you have done something horrible and at a certain point your life continues, you need to cope, then the acceptance of the fact that you did something horrible and the feeling that you have been forgiven can be a very strong motivator to pick up your life and continue in a positive way. You see it with lots of ex-addicts that if they get off drugs, then the absence of these drugs leaves a hole in their life which only God can fill. And
I think that if they were educated,
stay clean, then I don't see anything wrong with that, with the fact that they're forgiven for their bad behavior. And of course, substance abuse is different than rape. No argument there. And you missed that, Matthew, but I will go so far as agree with you that you can justify very negative behavior on Scripture if you want, but you kind of miss the point of religion in that sense.
I agree. I agree that they're missing the point. I feel that most people that you run across, because you know my feelings on some religions and how deep the problem is with them, I think that most people that you run into, the average person, is way better than their beliefs are, way better than their religion is. But I think that some of them are way, way worse. I think there are some people who use what are otherwise very positive messages to justify really, really disgusting things. My problem is with faith itself. When you choose intentionally to set aside your powers of critical thinking and rational analysis when it comes to the subject of is there a God or not, it makes it much easier to do the same thing when it comes to is it okay to hate gay people? Is it okay to burn this person with acid because someone told me they're a witch? Is it okay to that kind of thing? Those lapses in rationality become easier once you take that big rational or irrational leap.
Do you really think that the fact of being religious and the use of your critical powers are mutually exclusive?
I think that the acceptance of the God hypothesis based on faith. The Bible says that faith is evidence of things not seen, which means the Bible is telling you to substitute faith for evidence. They're making an equality statement between the two. When you're willing to say, I'm willing to take this faith thing as evidence instead of actual evidence, later on down the road when someone says, your Lord has commanded you to kill all of the Mbutu tribe, you go out there and kill the Mbutu tribe because you have faith.
Also, if the Lord tells you to cut off the clitoris of your daughter and you do it, you're doing a really horrible thing. So.
But who's to blame there? The one that does that or the one that commands him?
I'm not saying that the religion is to blame. I'm saying the religion is used to justify those actions, and without the religion, that's one less thing that people can use to justify actions like that. I'm also saying that once you make that leap of faith, it's a lot easier to be convinced to make other leaps of faith that are just as irrational.
Do you really
exactly? Like I had some on my page, on my Facebook page, that I said, where's God for the little children? Because she said that God answers all prayers, and she prayed for, people who are starving, and God sent her an answer in a dream and said that He was hearing for all these children. And I showed her some pictures of children starving. Like, so where is the evidence here that your prayer has been answered here? She goes, I know it's true. I know it's true. God loves these little kids. And so she's saying this stuff out loud to people and trying to get people to believe her, and it's really horrific to me, that someone would take that leap of faith because she had a dream that God is going to heal these kids.
Again, maybe just, maybe God just doesn't care anymore.
Well, she doesn't say that, though. People, they don't tend to believe that, I'm like, well, why does God talk to you and take care of you and answer all your prayers? I don't understand the difference. Why are you more important than these babies that are innocent?
Well, that goes to...
I mean, you ask her, you don't ask God.
Got a good book on that. Bart Ehrman's got a good book on that. It's called God's Problem. And check that out if you get a chance and read it. It's a pretty short book. Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, the Inquisition and massacres by self-proclaimed religious gurus and witch hunts and the Roman persecution of Christians, human sacrifice, child sacrifice, Islamic jihads.
Islamic jihads is a very different topic discussion, I think, and gravely misinterpreted in the course of history.
It's still religious based. These people are think they're going to, have a bunch of virgins as a reward for.
But the virgins have nothing to do with jihad. Jihad is the inner struggle of faith, not the outer struggle.
Oh, well, then what would you define what I was talking about as?
A bunch of sick people killing other people.
It has nothing to do with Islamic extremists.
Right, jihad has nothing to do with faith, is that what he said?
Say it again?
He said a jihad has nothing to do with faith.
Mm-hmm. It is what we just discussed, Matthew's point, that you can, if you want, invade another country and base it on faith. And you can base it on Roman Catholicism. You can base it on Islam if you want, and call it jihad. And in a lot of translations of the Quran, jihad is indeed translated as a battle of Muslims against
yeah, but we're talking about the ones that use it to blow people up and stuff.
Yeah,
in particular.
To convert pagan African tribes and stuff.
Yeah,
take it as the normal use of the word. I mean, the normal use of the word, maybe in some translations or whatever, it might not be seen as a religious word. But, generally, it's known as a, if we would say jihad, we all know what we mean. And it's Muslims.
Yeah, but the problem is that we're all wrong because we don't speak Arab.
To them.
We don't
know, but it's the use of the word, isn't it? If we all know that word means, I mean, every time that word's used in Western society, it's used because some Muslim has said, it's never, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I've never known that word not to be used in a religious sense. So the public. Sorry, go on.
I'm not saying it's not a religious sense, but it's not the sense that it means to kill all non-Muslims, as it's usually meant to, or said to mean.
But you can jihad anybody, can't you? That's the thing. As far as I would to understand it, a jihad was basically a death penalty to somebody who insulted Islam.
No, that's fatwa.
No.
Fatwa. That's
I'll
it.
put a fatwa out on you.
Fatwa is also broader. Fatwa is an interpretation, a legal interpretation of a part of a text based on the Sunnah.
But
the problem with Islam, and this is a very important one, that there's only one thing you can say about Islam in general, which is the Shahada. There's no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. And even the period behind that sentence, there's no consensus about that, because the Shiites, they think it's a comma and you need to add that Ali was a friend of God. But after that sentence, you cannot say anything about Islam in general.
Well, you can say a lot of things about Islam in general, but it might not be right. And the news has made it apparent that that's the most important thing about Islam is all the war and all the hate, and it's simply not true for every single Muslim person.
Do you really believe the news, Heather?
Not all of it. No, I try to read it thoroughly and look at who's saying it. Number one, who wrote that, and then I form my own opinion. But I do know that not everyone with the Islamic faith or Muslims are mean people and hate Americans. They're people who want to live their lives and have peace in their world and practice their religion and practice their faith and be successful and survive, just like all of us.
I do want to get this in though, because Gawain and I have touched on this in previous discussions on Hangouts. Is that I do understand your argument as far as translation. I understand that there are multiple interpretations of the word jihad when it's westernized, or when it's anglicized. But I think the critical aspect of that argument is that the people who are committing most of these atrocities are not doing so based on an incorrect translation into English of the Quran. They speak Arabic.
They're not.
They're reading it in Arabic, and they look at jihad the same way as we are supposedly misinterpreting it.
But what does that mean for the entirety of Islam?
What
it's
that means
considered.
to me is the same thing it means for the Christian and Judaic faiths, is that if the all-powerful, supreme creator of the effing universe was not able to inspire a book that's more easily interpreted in a single fashion than the ones that we have, then I really reject even the most basic level of intelligence, because I think that any one of us in this room, and I mean this as a compliment, any one of the people in this room would be much more capable of writing a book that would be less interpretable into evil than the ones that we have available.
According to Islam, God tried twice before to write a book that was easier accessible, which is the Torah and the Bible. And both of the times it was corrupted by man because he put his own message in.
Good rationalization.
God doesn't have a very good control over his own creations then. I find that ridiculous that you can create a universe, but you can't manage to inspire monkeys to write things down the way you want them to.
Again, that's an issue of free will.
Yeah.
There we go.
Free will isn't free if your only option is to follow this God or die.
Right. So he can carve, he can physically carve the Ten Commandments into stone, and decides not to include anything about germ theory or rape. But he can't inspire the mind of a human to write something down a little more coherent than the New King or the King James version.
He also can't take the time to instruct people not to. He doesn't have the time to tell people not to retranslate it and rewrite it and pull things out of it and add things to it. There are so many versions of the Bible, and it's just ridiculous. Which one should I be reading? Which one should I be following?
If I'm the all-powerful creator of the universe, number one, I write the book myself, just like you just said. Number two, I write it in diamond, right? Because then no one's going to be able to F with it. Number three, I include some important things like germ theory, how it works, why slavery is bad for you as a species, you know, why rape is bad for you as a society, and so forth. And I don't care how primitive the society was 5,000 years ago when the Torah was written, or 4,000 years ago, depending on who you ask. It could have been written a lot better even for those people. Even
if God knew the future, he would have known that we wouldn't be doing slavery anymore. He probably would have never done it in the first place. I mean, why are we changing?
Future, he has to be able to imagine a better one than the Bible seems to predict.
I don't know what you're talking about, but there are still people in this world committing slavery, and that's a whole other issue.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's true. That's absolutely true. And so why hasn't God stopped that? Or why is God not making us do that in USA? Why don't we have slaves still? I mean, I should be drinking from a different water fountain right now.
If you're
my nature are superstitious and have magical thinking. That's why.
Well, luckily in America, we had a lovely reverend to rally the people and get things right.
Well, I hope you're all looking in the chat every once in a while, because I keep posting links referencing to the things that we're talking about, and you can check them out later if you want, or check them out now. It's like the long list of Christian denominations
over 30,000.
It's redunculous. It's just redunculous. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, which Bible should I be reading? How many Bible versions are there?
Surprisingly little, if you look at the untranslated Quran.
Bible version chart, allbibles.com.
And when I meet somebody that tells me that he believes the what's written in the Bible in a literal sense, from cover to cover, then the first thing I do is compliment him with his extensive knowledge of Hebrew, and the second thing I do is ask him what all those numbers mean, because I can give you a list of numbers which will be the most accurate Bible translation you will ever see, because every Hebrew character has a numerical value as well, and I have no clue what all those numbers mean, and usually they're at a loss for words then.
I spent years on them, actually.
Oh wow, it's up for interpretation.
The main one you need to worry about is 72. Just know that's the critical one.
What is?
Yeah, Yeah, it's called the Tetragrammaton, the 72-fold name of God. You make this sort of magical square using the words Yahweh, the letters that form Yahweh, which is Yod He Vav He, and you make this sort of magical square on a piece of copper about yay big, and conjugate the name of God in 72 iterations. And it's the true Kabbalists believe that there's a secret code that's embedded there by God, and that you could use it to solve
The Bible code.
yeah, all the mysteries of the universe are hidden there if you ask a true Kabbalist, not the Madonna, Robbie Bird, moron.
I want to talk to Madonna.
Bible code. That was actually wasn't that Newton who tried to delve into that actually?
Sorry?
I don't know if Newton did, but I know Crowley spent a long time on it.
Oh yeah, Crowley did.
Whenever they can give me a
But he must. I don't know what he was on. Crowley.
Yeah,
Crowley? Mainly magic mushrooms and cocaine.
Yeah.
Hey Diane, you've been really quiet. Anything to add to the topic?
Oh, my only comment was I think that you should be congratulating them on their knowledge of Aramaic, since most of those people at the time were speaking, Aramaic, Egyptian.
We're illiterate as well.
That sort of thing.
It is true, but I mean, it's sort of like ancient Greek as opposed to Greek. Aramaic is really just, in a loosely speaking way, Aramaic is just ancient Hebrew.
I think I want to know why we're not reading ancient Hebrew right now. I mean, why don't we all know this, man?
I do.
Well, goody two shoes for you.
I mean,
it wasn't taught in Camden. It wasn't taught in Camden, New Jersey's school system.
I wasted 6 months on it. Believe me, you'd be glad that you haven't wasted the time on it. The Bible doesn't make any more sense when it's written backwards than it does when it's written forward.
Well, the other thing
I sort of had a choice between
words
study.
change meaning over time, and people. Just because something's written down doesn't mean that it means the same thing 2,000 years from now as it means today.
Oh, you're excellent.
True, words do
right,
change
Diane.
over time.
I just looked up that there was 20 different versions of the Quran today.
One of my professors, she had an excellent study on the change of meanings of words. She's the one that she made the Dutch news by proving that the first sentence of the Bible should actually be translated not God created the world, but God divided the world.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty strong stuff.
Wow.
But I read an article written by her where she examined the meaning of the word as the word city gate, and I believe it is in Esther, or I believe it's Esther or Ruth, one of those books in the Old Testament where a lot of stuff happens at the city gate, and she asked us to draw a city gate, how we saw it, and everybody was just sort of drawing a medieval city gate as a high stone wall with a portcullis and maybe a moat and a drawbridge. And she said, well, a city gate didn't really look like that then. What it was actually was a set of walls with a few bends in it to stop a stampeding cavalry. They had to take a few bends, and they couldn't run into the city. And they put a roof on that. And basically that was their city house, their city hall, sorry. And all the meetings of the elders took place in the city gate. And that was an entirely different view as we have. But every time we read the Bible and we read the word city gate, we imagine this medieval portcullis. But it didn't look like that. And that was just an article on one word and the interpretation of it. She also did something with the word anger, which was even stronger, but I can't really recall it. But you have to to realize that every word in the Bible has had a similar change of meaning in over 4,000 years, so to speak.
Well, it's like one of the more famous ones is Isaac Asimov got together a team of linguists and biblical scholars and paleontologists and people who he felt could contribute positively to the discussion, and they determined after years of examination that the Septuagint was responsible for the myth of the virgin birth. That no one who wrote the New Testament believed Mary to be a virgin. There's nothing in the Bible except for the mistranslation of a single word that indicates that she was a virgin, and that the whole thing was eventually made up, whole cloth by the early Catholic Church. But the word that they meant to translate or that they did translate as virgin essentially meant unmarried woman. They were calling her a slut. They weren't calling her a virgin. They were saying that she was impure, basically, and that's what made it so miraculous that the Son of God would be born of someone impure. But if you read the New Testament, if you read the Gospels, especially with that in mind, it becomes really clear that the Gospel writers didn't think that. I believe it's Luke. I'm sorry. Luke draws the lineage of Jesus back to King David through Joseph. It shows clearly he didn't have a belief in a virgin birth.
But you basically try to say that he had a choice by drawing the lineage between. He could choose between drawing it through Joseph or through Mary. And the funny thing with lineage is that you can't. I mean, there is either a lineage.
Yeah, it has to be through Mary. In Jewish tradition. In Jewish tradition, it has to be through Mary. It's how Jewish lineages are drawn, is through the maternal parent. But Mark draws it that way, but Luke does not.
Judaism is through the mother because they want to be absolutely sure that the child is a Jew. But name is inherited through the father.
Right, but the house of David passes through the womb, according to the.
Why is it called the House of David then?
Because David was the king.
But he's a man. So why did this house pass through him and not through his wife?
My Talmud is a little rusty, but I think it basically was because the woman carries the womb, the Jewish woman's womb carries the Jewish civilization forward from generation to generation, is the belief. And so even though King David is the blood that they're trying to preserve in the prophecy down to Jesus, or to the Messiah in the case of the Torah, the blood is supposed to be carried through the womb, not through
So, do I hear you right when you say that Luke, in this sense, drew the line of Christ back to David through all women, except for the last one he named Joseph instead of Mary?
I don't think that it's made clear in the Bible after the first generation, which it's like it goes through the. I have to look at it again. It's been years, but there's two different stories of how they go, and I don't remember whether they both draw completely through the women or not. But I think that the way they tell lineages isn't through the women at each generation. It's only the first generation that you have to say this is through the woman, and from there just marriage, and there's kind of the assumption is made that the fidelity was intact in the marriage and that the woman's bloodline kind of kept it. But I don't know if they draw it through daughters if Luke draws it through daughters the whole way back, the way the law of return nowadays would require.
I never bothered to read that part because it's extremely boring.
It's been years since I've looked at it. But like, for example, nowadays, you're right, the law of return requires you to go through women all the way back. You can't just go back a couple of generations of women and then say, and then it was some dude. If you want to go get your Israeli citizenship, you got to be able to show a few generations of women.
That's a pretty girl in the background.
Thank you. She's showing off her creation.
See, she's a goddess.
Empowerment.
I just wanted to mention before, time is almost up here, and I wanted to mention to you all that I will always start off with a topic, but that doesn't mean we're just going to stay on that topic, because it's a kind of an organic chat here where things will move along and move around. So I remember you saying, you were asking me, Gwen, what does Mother Teresa have to do with priests, Catholic priests? Well, it's all about religion and movement of this conversation. So that's what it has to do with it. So it'll never, ever stay on topic. It's just kind of impossible, especially because we're all here together discussing this kind of organic topic in this organic chat room. I appreciate everybody here for chiming in and not making me just be the only person talking. I love it. I love hearing what everybody has to say. I love Roberta, and I love Rick and Gwen and Matt and Nick and all these people, Trev, and I hope to get some more religious people in this chat room next week. And if you're interested in coming in, just send me a message on Google+, and I'll make sure you get in next week. You can send the Hangout Show a message, and they'll try to get you in. And I'm going to wrap up by just saying that I'm Heather Henderson. This has been the Religious Discussion Chat on the Hangout Show. Please circle the Hangout Show if you want to get news about the shows that are coming up, about sports, trivia, and the like. And they also try to hang out 24 hours so that people can come in and chat. And this has been a great show. You can see me, you can listen to me on on iTunes, and I'm live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on a show called Ardent Atheist with Emery Emery. It's a comedy show. We talk about religion and we discuss it with local and famous comedians. So it's basically like a round table in a green room of a bunch of us, believers and non-believers, being friendly and making fun of each other. And there's never any hatred involved. It's always in good fun. So I've got like 1 minute left. You guys can continue talking. I'm sure we're going to be off the air in just a minute, but this has been a great conversation. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, dear.
Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, thank you much, Heather.
Thank you.
I enjoy it. So where were you guys?
Do what now?
Do what now?
Sorry, you're leaving it on air, are you?
We were on air.
No, but now I mean, it's staying on it. Okay.
Will we
not on air yet.
So I can't swear still.
Will we on there? 'Cause my
You can
Hangout
swear,
is
but
saying
only the soft swears, not the hard.
Okay.
my
I'm
Hangout
posting a
is
link
saying
to the show Ardent Atheist in the chat.
My Hangout was showing off air.
You know, I believe the Hangout Show was having problems with the on-air earlier, and last Sunday we were supposed to be on air, and we didn't because we kept having problems with the Google Plus Hangout just dropping us and freezing up and stuff like that.
it shows on air right now.
Yeah. It's
In the
on
Hangout
there.
feed.
Isn't that nice? Hi, everybody. Please circle me on Google Plus and then tell me how you found me, because I got people are just circle crazy. I don't know what's going on, and I'm like, roll call, tell me who this is.
Well, if you go to circlecount.com, you can see if you've been shared in any circles or anything like that.
Ew.
It's
Look that up.
Yeah.
Circlecount.com.
You are at least in Tim Brooks' anti-theist circle.
I am in that.
I got that circle through you, I believe.
Yes.
And I found you here at the Hangout Show.
I just got added
Cool.
to some heathen circle.
You should share it.
I said, hey, I put the he in heathens.
So is anybody else having any concerns about what's going on in the news concerning religion at all?
No, none.
No.
Concerns about religion? I have no concerns about religion.
I do have a concern about religion. It's the biased portraiture of religion as a whole in the media, and especially of non-Western religions, with an emphasis on Islam. I mean, you can't throw a rock and hit a newspaper that says something complete or nuanced about the influence of Islam on the globe, in that sense. And if you know a little more about how the faith works and diversity and the nuance and the complexity of the situation, then 90% of what you read about Islam in newspaper is bullcrap. I can say bullcrap here, right?
The thing, my business partner's a hardcore Muslim. He's proper. He mosque every Friday. He's really into it. Carries a prayer mat around with him.
Bye.
Bye, Berta.
Good talking to you.
And
Bye.
he's one of the sweetest, nicest people I've ever known. So the vocal minority that we hear, obviously, is not what most Muslims are. However, what is in their holy book is undisputable. You can, I didn't bring up but whatever's written, the text that's there is the text that's there. If you choose to change the meaning, for example, Christianity has changed completely. So like 400 years ago with the Dark Ages and that sort of thing, the opinions have changed. For example, the Earth being the centre of the universe, that sort of thing. If you were to be a proper Christian, you take the Bible word for word. But
No.
the inspired word.
It's a mistake a lot of people make. They open a Bible, start reading, and then they think they know Christianity. But it is not that simple. You must realize that as soon as you open a Bible, you have to compare it with 2,000 years of discussion, interpretation, and theology. And you cannot do that on a first read. I mean, you can be so intelligent, but you cannot include 2,000 years of study and theology when you first open this book. A much better access to any religion is not reading its sacred texts, but join a group that talks about it and ask your questions.
I just listened to the Atheist Experience had a show, and they were talking about how there's been a lot of reporters not reporting the truth, and only because they're reporting what people are quoting, or they're quoting what people are saying, even though they may be saying wrong things, especially our politicians, but not correcting them, when they're out and out wrong about something, and whether reporters should do that or just report whatever they hear. What do you think about that?
I can give you an example of my own life, where I've wrestled with that, if I understand what you say correctly. I'm an intern at a multimedia website, and one of my tasks there is go to religious gatherings in the broadest sense, and write reports about them. And a while back, I was at a project where an imam was preaching in a synagogue, and it was a very, very powerful experience. And I could, I was just going through the evening, and when I was home and writing my article about it, I would link it, but it's in Dutch, so I don't think it's of much use to you. I basically had a choice. I mean, interreligious dialogue is something that all of us should I'm a lack for words today. It's probably because I'm pretty tired. We should
participate in?
No, not necessarily participate, but agree on, in that sense. It's something good that different religions are talking to each other and not blowing each other's brains out, in that sense. And this is a very powerful step in the right direction. If you have the religious leader of one group talking in the religious house of the other, and especially to opposing parties as Judaism and Islam.
Even if they can't at first completely agree on whatever issue it is they're discussing, the fact that they're meeting, willing to meet and continue to meet, speaks volumes and will eventually lead to some sort of compromise, at least.
Yeah, but as I was writing my article, I had a choice. I could write this for the grace and the beauty that it had, or I could focus on the fact that I wasn't at first, although I had an appointment. I was refused entry by two gorillas that were at the door because I didn't look Jewish enough, and they wanted to go through my bag, and I had to prove that my camera wasn't really a Semtex bomb. And they looked me up on a list, and then reluctantly they let me in. And at the moment the Imam started preaching, this lady she got up and walked out of the synagogue, just out of protest. And it is that's what I was going at. Hi, it's so incredibly easy to focus on that for an easy score, and you get your comments, you get your readers, and yay, then you have comments and readers. But what is the point? What you're trying to do? Are you trying to say stuff as it happened? Then you have to say both the negative and both the positive things. Are you trying to help a good plan to succeed? Like you name the positive things, or if you want an easy score, then you say something about those gorillas. And about the fact that this lady got up, and then you get your readers. And it's a decision every journalist has to make every time he writes anything. And most of them, unfortunately, go for the easy score.
Right. You would think that everyone would want to, and especially if you know that something someone is saying is out and out misinformation, you would think that they'd want to put at the bottom, an asterisk or something, and put at the bottom, this is actually what was stated. This is actually, if someone is misquoting someone and it's being reported misquoted, they should actually correct that guy and say, well, Obama actually said these words, not what Perry said or whatever, so that's, I just put up a couple of articles in the side chat bar about that. And with that, I'm going to have to get going. But I'm sorry. I had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Enjoy. Thanks for hosting.
Thank you for coming. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you next week.
Book show. Carry this discussion, guys, if you want to, or we could just end it.
Yeah, I'm sort of burnt myself out, I think, actually. I'm feeling a bit tired, and I'm only hearing half the conversations, and I'm not exactly on form. So.
No problem, Trevor. Let's just call it a night then, and thanks for joining us on the Hangout Show. It was a great show, and we hope you'll come and see us again next week for the religious discussions.
I'll be here.
5 p.m. 5 p.m. EST, UK time, 10 p.m.
I'm there.
All right.
If I'm in, I'm there. I always join this one if I'm in. Yeah. Just say, Dwayne, are you an atheist then? I just don't know what circle to put you in.
No, formally, I'm an agnosticist or an agnostic, but I'm not so fond of